When the heart is permanently awake, we are in unity consciousness. The mind is awake, the heart is awake, and we're in what we can call unity and perceiving oneness, perceiving ourselves everywhere we look. And unity is a beautiful state of consciousness. It's where we live from unconditional love, complete acceptance of everything and of what is, just because it is us. And we don't resist anything. We've finally found our way home back to ourselves. And it's a really wonderful state of consciousness. It's where all the feel-good stuff is. And so when the heart is permanently awake, we've been through a journey over many years usually of healing the heart and working through the layers that are blocking us from keeping the heart open permanently. And so we've put up these walls of protection unconsciously when we've got hurt, even from childhood. We've blocked ourselves when perhaps we opened up to love once and we got rejected. Or perhaps our loved one died and we got very hurt. Things have happened in life to do with love that have affected our ability to keep our heart open. And life is hard at times. And so what awakening does is it wants to break through and work through all of those layers of protection that have been put there that are no longer helping you to have there, because they're going to get in the way of you being able to get to having this open heart, accessing the spiritual heart, the one heart, the undivided heart. To be able to live from that is quite a journey, and it's more along the lines of healing. It's healing issues to do with love, to do with why did I close back down? Why can't I stay open? Why am I trying to protect myself? And working through all the different layers of that. So it can be quite painful, where the mind awakening part is more to do with breaking beliefs and identities. It's to do with identities, really. That's the key of it. This is to do with healing the heart. And so, of course, it's going to be more painful. And why less people get to unity consciousness? Because they're not willing to address these painful parts within them from childhood, the parental wounds, the times where bad things happened in relationships, not willing to feel that pain and then take the risk to open the heart and be exposed and vulnerable again. But that's what's required to get to this shift, to allow it to be permanent. We have to work through all of those layers, and step by step, we start to open the heart, and eventually we don't close it back down. And on top of that, we're also looking at where we're identified with emotions, just like we were identified with thoughts when we're talking about the mind awakening. You thought you were the one that was having that thought, and it was your thought. That's identification. So here we think it's my emotion, and we may think not only is it mine, but some of these emotions, maybe I don't know what it's like to live without. Maybe I've never experienced what it's like to live without shame or anxiety or depression. We may not realize, because we've always had it there, that we're completely identified with some of these emotions. And we wouldn't know who we are without that being there, without have that feeling within us. And so we can just ask, if this resonates with you, who would I be without this depression? Who would I be without this anxiety or this shame? Who am I without that? To start to see, am I identified with that? Am I thinking that's who I am? Do I not know who I am without that feeling? So a large part is to do with the identification part of the emotions. And then the other part is to do with healing the blockages and the layers of protection, the walls of the heart that are there that are stopping it from opening and staying open. And that's going to be a large part to do with healing and to do with love. There's going to be the parental wounds will become relevant during this part of awakening, as well as other relationships where you've closed your heart back down. Perhaps you lost a child or whatever it was, where you experienced some tragedy, experienced some loss, some deep grief to do with heartbreak, and you unconsciously closed things in. You made yourself smaller. You made yourself more separate, in a sense. And awakening is all about opening up, opening infinitely, not allowing anything to get in the way of that expansiveness. And so this can be a painful part of awakening, because it's all about love and where we were hurt and where we were hurt as children. And it's hard, which is, what this is a harder part of awakening, but the payoff is very great. So when we get to unity consciousness and we're living permanently from the undivided heart, and it is a very pleasurable, happy, loving, intimate way to live. And so the payoff is very great, but the path to get there is usually quite challenging, especially depending on what's happened to us in our life, of course. Each person will be different. But an excellent practice that you can do besides healing work, which could be in therapy, certainly can, this part of awakening, but part of it is going inward continually and noticing any time, having very close attention. Where did I close my heart down just then? So maybe we went to the store, we were feeling really good and open, really happy, really connected with everything. And we started out there, and then something happened. Maybe we closed instantly, maybe we closed progressively. And so take the opportunity to contemplate what actually occurred. Did I have a thought? Is it something someone said? Is it a look that somebody gave me? Was I reminded of my child just then, or an ex-lover? What happened? What was the trigger? What actually was it? What needs to be healed within me so that closing down doesn't happen again? As an indicator that there's something there to do. It could be a lot of different things. It could be inner child work. It could be working on parental wounds, the attachment wound. It could be really feeling through a time of loss and heartbreak in a relationship that you didn't really process at the time, and going back and crying about it now. Or there's so many different things it could be, but it's firstly noticing that it's happened. We want to have the awareness of that. So paying close attention. Where is the heart closing back down? Where am I putting up a wall of protection? We may even notice this happening when we're having a conversation with someone. We start to feel like we're pulling back. Where am I doing that? Where I feel like I'm making myself smaller and more separate. Why am I doing that? Why do I feel the need to do that, to protect myself when I'm talking to this person? What is it? And so trying to pull it apart and really get to the root of why each block is there. And as you work through them, and we really want to go so deeply into them that they dissolve, and so that the heart has nothing that is going to keep it from being open, and it'll reach a day, if you keep going, where it doesn't close back down again. And so to live in this way, to live from an awake heart, is pleasurable, certainly. It is to operate from unconditional love, complete acceptance of whatever happens, whatever pain, whatever crisis. There is no resistance to it. There is a natural acceptance of it that requires no effort, which is a very relaxing way to live and to operate through hardships. There is no identification with emotions, so emotions can be felt. And they are sort of like just a wave. They flow in, they're experienced, maybe crying happens, whatever it might be, and it moves out just as quickly, sometimes extremely quickly. It's like Teflon. There's nothing for it to stick to attach to. And so all kinds of emotions can be experienced, although I find over time it sort of becomes more neutralized. Your emotional experience, it starts off very sort of highs and lows and becomes less high and low the further you get into unity, but you're still able to feel the full emotional range. Something can trigger it. You see something sad, watch a sad movie, it will come up very quickly, flow through and be gone, and there'll be no attachment to it. The very big emotions seem to sort of plateau out and become more neutralized the further into the unity phase that you go. But you still have access to the full emotional range. So it is emotional maturity. It is love. There is no need to protect oneself. You can love freely with children, with partners, with friends. There's no need to feel like that you can't express love. There's nothing that holds you back in regards to love, connection. And so, of course, this is, what a lot of us come to awakening for, is to feel this. And it is wonderful. And it's just quite the journey to get there. But if you have a true longing for love, for unconditional love, we have these glimpses of what unconditional love feels like, of what oneness feels like, oneness experiences. We have heart awakening glimpses through the awakening process, and they're all the feel-good ones. They're the ones we can get hooked on. And it is similar to that, to have an awake heart, but because we adapt to it completely over time and forget the previous state of consciousness, egoic consciousness, where we believe we were separate, that is completely deleted from your memory, and you only know what it is like to live in unity consciousness. And it becomes so integrated over time that you can't notice it because there's nothing to compare it to. When you first shift into unity consciousness, there's quite a difference because you can still remember what it felt to be separate and how much suffering there was. And by comparison of how wonderful you're feeling once you've had that permanent shift, it's like night and day. But just like anything, we adapt to it, which is a sign that it's permanent, is that you adapt to it over the years and it becomes less obvious. It's just your lived experience, and you can't remember what it's like to not feel this way, to not feel happy, to not feel the peace of your being, and to be living from unconditional love. You actually can't remember what it's like to live in a divided way. It becomes so normalized as you go through a deepening into unity consciousness.